so masyałe, czy rozpałasajt. Sigady zachorny recognition czarnych.
Welcome, friends. Today's story will touch your heart and remind you that sometimes true kindness is hidden in the most unexpected souls. The morning sun poured softly through the wide glass windows of the mansion. The golden light danced on the polished floor, falling across the quiet study room. Everything was perfect. The books, the elegant furniture, the smell of expensive coffee. Everything, except the loneliness of the man lying on the couch. He was the CEO, rich, powerful, and feared by everyone. But today he wasn't working. Today he had decided to pretend to be asleep. Why? Because he wanted to test his new maid, a shy, quiet girl who never spoke much, but whose eyes always carried sadness and honesty. He had noticed her looking at the money he sometimes left on the table. Not with greed, but with something else, pain, hesitation, and longing. And today he wanted to see who she really was. He lay back, closed his eyes, and waited. A few minutes later, soft footsteps entered the room. She was there, the maid, and wearing her grey uniform, her hands trembling, slightly as she saw the CEO asleep and a pile of money on the table in front of him. She looked around nervously, then slowly walked closer. The man, still pretending to sleep, peeked through his eyelashes, ready to see what she would do. But what she did next broke his heart. She didn't take the money. She gently touched one of the notes, then pulled her hand back, whispering softly, "Just one bill could buy my little brother's medicine. But I can't steal. I promised my mother I'd stay honest, no matter how hungry we are." Her voice cracked as she spoke, and she covered her face, silently crying. She then took a small piece of paper from her pocket, wrote something on it, and placed it under the stack of money. Then she bowed her head toward the sleeping CEO and whispered, "Thank you for giving me work, sir. I'll come early tomorrow. I just needed to see this money once, to remind myself that honesty is worth more than all of it." She turned to leave, and that's when he opened his eyes. "Wait," he said softly. She froze in shock, realizing he had been awake all along. Her face turned pale, her lips trembling. "Sir, I wasn't going to—" But before she could finish, he stood up, walked to her, and gently handed her the money. "Take it," he said quietly, "not as charity, but as a reward for something money can't buy, your honesty." Tears filled her eyes. "Sir, I can't—" He smiled faintly. "You already earned it. And from today, you're not my maid. You'll work in my company. You have a heart I wish more people had." She broke down crying, her hands shaking as she held the money, not out of greed, but because someone had finally... If this emotional story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Channel Soul of Kindness. Would your support help spread more stories of honesty, kindness, and love? Let's make the world feel again. Welcome, friends. If the first scene touched your heart, this next part will melt it completely. Because sometimes kindness doesn't end with one act. It changes two lives forever. The next morning, the mansion was quieter than ever. The shy maid, Anna, stood outside the large wooden doors, clutching the same small bag she always carried, her brother's old medicine bottle inside, empty now. Her eyes were red from crying all night. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. She thought about what happened, how the CEO, Mr. Raymond, had caught her near the money, and instead of firing her, he had thanked her. No one had ever done that before. All her life, she had been accused, blamed, and punished for things she never did. And now someone powerful, had trusted her. As she entered the mansion, she saw him standing by the window holding a cup of coffee. The sunlight hit his face, and for the first time, he didn't look like the cold CEO everyone feared. He looked human. "Good morning, sir," she said softly, keeping her eyes down. He turned slowly. "Good morning, Anna. Did you sleep well?" She nodded weakly. "Yes, sir. Thank you for everything yesterday. I'll never forget it." He smiled gently and motioned for her to sit. "You told me about your brother's medicine yesterday. What's wrong with him?" Her hands shook. "He's only 7, sir. He was born with a weak heart. After our parents died, I've been doing everything to keep him alive. Cleaning houses, washing clothes. But his medicine is too expensive." The CEO looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he picked up the phone and called his assistant. "Find me the best heart specialist in the city, and arrange an appointment for a boy named Daniel, today." Anna froze. "Sir, please." "You don't have to." He looked straight into her tearful eyes. "Yesterday you chose honesty over survival. Today, let me choose humanity over money." She broke down. Her hands covered her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Why are you being so kind to me, sir? I'm just your maid." He shook his head softly. "No, Anna, you're not just anything. You reminded me of my mother." She looked up, confused. He walked toward the old wooden cabinet and opened it, pulling out a framed photograph, a woman smiling warmly. She was a maid, too, before I became who I am. She taught me that no amount of money can buy honesty or love. He sighed deeply, his voice trembling. "I lost her before I could tell her how much she meant to me. But yesterday, when I saw you standing there, choosing integrity over desperation, I saw her again." Anna's tears fell freely now. "Your mother must have been proud of you, sir." He smiled faintly. "I hope she would be now." There was silence for a moment, soft sunlight spilling across the floor, two souls standing in quiet understanding. Then the CEO gently handed her an envelope. "Inside is your brother's treatment cost, and something else. Sometimes life gives us moments that test our hearts, and sometimes it gives us people who heal them." Today's scene continues the story of Anna, the shy maid, and Mr. Raymond, the CEO whose life began to change because of her honesty. Days passed. The mansion, once silent and cold, now felt alive. Anna's laughter, soft and gentle, had begun to fill the halls. She worked with a lightness in her step, often humming while she dusted the bookshelves or arranged the fresh flowers. Mr. Raymond started keeping on his mother's piano. For the first time in years, the house felt like a home. Mr. Raymond would often find himself standing in the doorway, watching her quietly. She didn't know, but every time she smiled, something inside him healed a little more. He had spent years buried in numbers, deals, and meetings, building walls of money around his loneliness. But now he found peace in the simplest things, the sound of a broom, the smell of coffee, and the quiet strength of a young woman who had nothing, yet gave everything. One evening, as the golden sunset poured into the room, Anna entered holding a small box. Her eyes were shining with excitement. "Sir," she said softly, "my brother, he's better. The doctor said his heart is getting stronger." Mr. Raymond looked up from his desk, his eyes brightening. "That's wonderful news, Anna." Tears formed in her eyes. "You saved him, sir. I'll never forget what you did for us. Daniel said when he grows up he wants to be like you." Raymond smiled faintly. "Then I hope he becomes even better than me. Because kindness, that's what makes someone truly rich." There was a long silence, the room filled with the warm glow of evening light. Then Anna stepped closer. "I wanted to give you something, sir," she said, opening the small box. Inside was a tiny handmade wooden angel. "I carved this myself. It's not perfect, but it's a thank you from both of us." Raymond took it gently in his hands. His eyes softened. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "You know, my mother used to collect angels." Anna smiled. "Then maybe she sent me here, sir, to remind you she's still watching." Those words hit him deep. His hands trembled slightly as he set the angel on his desk, beside his mother's photograph. "I think you're right," he said in a voice thick with emotion. For a few moments, they both stood silently, two souls connected not by wealth or status, but by gratitude and love. Later that night, as Anna finished her chores, she saw Mr. Raymond sitting by the piano. He wasn't working. He was playing a soft melody, the same one his mother used to play. Anna paused by the door, listening quietly, tears filling her eyes. He noticed her and smiled. "Would you like to learn?" he asked. She nodded slowly and walked toward him. He guided her hands to the keys, showing her each note. Their hands brushed, and for a moment the world felt still. There was no master, no maid, only two broken hearts mending through music. Tonight's story takes us to a moment that will stay in your heart. A moment when truth, love, and destiny meet in the most unexpected way. This is the next part of Rich CEO. Pretends to sleep to test the shy maid, and what happens now will melt your heart. The rain was pouring outside, tapping softly on the mansion windows. Anna stood by the piano, her hands trembling slightly as she closed the lid. She could feel something changing, something deep, beyond words. Mr. Raymond had become quieter lately. He smiled more, but behind his eyes, there was something unspoken, a storm of emotions he didn't know how to express. For nights he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that moment when Anna didn't take the money, when she covered him with a blanket instead. He realized something that terrified him. He was falling in love. But how could a man with everything love a woman who had nothing except a pure heart? That evening, Anna entered his study with a tray of tea. She placed it gently on the table and noticed he was staring at a photograph of his late mother. "You miss her?" she said softly. He looked up, surprised. "Every day," he whispered. "She taught me to be kind, but somewhere along the way I forgot." Anna smiled gently. "Maybe she sent people in your path to remind you." Raymond's eyes glistened. "You remind me of her. The way you care for everyone without expecting anything." Anna blushed and looked down. "I only do what feels right." He stood up and walked closer, the soft light of the lamp falling across his face. "Anna," he said slowly, "that's what makes you special. You do what's right, even when no one is watching." There was silence. Only the sound of the rain filled the room. Then suddenly Raymond took out a small envelope and placed it in her hands. "This is for you," he said. She opened it and her eyes widened. It was not money, but documents. "Sir, what is this?" "It's your brother's school admission," he said quietly, "and a small apartment near the hospital. You deserve a home, Anna, not just work, a life." Anna's lips trembled. "Sir, I can't accept this." He interrupted softly. "It's not charity, it's gratitude. You helped me remember what it means to be human." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "You've already given me more than I could ever dream." He stepped closer, his voice breaking. "No, Anna, you gave me something money could never buy, peace." For a moment they stood there, two souls surrounded by silence, connected by the invisible thread of kindness. Then unexpectedly Anna placed her hand on his heart and said, "You're not as lonely as you think, sir. You just forgot how to listen to your heart." Her words pierced through the walls he had built for years. Raymond looked into her eyes full of sincerity and warmth. And for the first time in his life, he felt seen, truly seen. He took a deep breath. "Anna, you changed me," without even trying. This is the final and most emotional part of the story. Rich CEO pretends to sleep to test the shy maid. Then he freezes when seeing what she does. A story about trust, kindness, and love that changed two lonely hearts forever. Stay till the end and don't forget, kindness always finds its way home. Weeks passed. The mansion no longer felt cold. Laughter echoed in its long hallways, not from parties or guests, but from the simple joy of two people finding peace in each other's company. Mr. Raymond had stopped hiding behind his office desk. He spent mornings walking in the garden, sometimes helping Anna water the flowers. She still called him Sir, though he kept telling her just Raymond. One evening the sky turned a deep orange and the house glowed in the sunset. Anna stood by the window, quietly watching the light fade. Her brother's treatment was complete. He was healthy now. Life had given her back everything she had once lost, but her heart felt heavy. She knew soon she'd have to leave. Her job as a maid was temporary. She didn't belong in this mansion, no matter how kind Raymond was. She turned slowly as she heard footsteps behind her. Raymond was there holding something in his hand, a small music box. "I found this," he said softly. "It was my mother's. She used to play it whenever I was sad." He turned the key and a soft, sweet melody filled the room, the same one they'd played together weeks ago. Anna smiled faintly. "It's beautiful." Raymond nodded. "So are you, Anna." Her eyes widened slightly. "Sir," he stepped closer. "When I pretended to sleep that day, I wanted to test your honesty. But I didn't know I'd be testing my own heart. You could have taken the money, but instead you covered me with a blanket." He paused, his voice trembling. "Since that night I haven't stopped thinking about you." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. "You're kind, sir, but I don't deserve—" He interrupted gently. "Don't ever say that again. You deserve the world, Anna. You gave me life again." The music box continued to play as he reached out and held her trembling hands. I spent years building empires, chasing numbers, and forgetting how to feel. But you, he said, his voice breaking, you made me human again. Anna couldn't hold back her tears anymore. They flowed freely as she whispered, you taught me something too, sir, that not all rich men are cold. Some have hearts warmer than the sun. He smiled sadly. Then let's make a promise. No more walls. No more pretending. The melody slowed, fading into silence. The camera panned out, the mansion glowing softly through the rain. Two souls standing together by the window, their silhouettes framed in the light. The music box played one last note, pure, delicate, eternal. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Channel Soul of Kindness. Because sometimes pretending leads to the truth. And the smallest act of honesty can awaken a lifetime of love.